so-and-so, not evangelist so-and-so, not bad hair, nothing. Your measure is Jesus. Come on, man, that's our standard. Our standard is Him. Our standard is not the world, our standard is Him. That we should no longer be children tossed to and fro, carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the trickery of men and the cunning craftiness of deceitful plotting. What does that mean? Well, here we go. Because if you don't know that you're a gift, everything's easily swaying. Oh, that sounds good. That looks like they're doing something. You got to know where you're at with Him, and that comes from a relationship. When you know the real, the fake doesn't make it. Well, 3 of you. Come on, man. I've told you this before, but when they first came out with microwaves, they had a microwave cake. You ever have one of those? It comes in a little box, and you mix it together, and you put it on there, and it was easy, and it was fast, and it was nasty. And so I was thinking, man, chocolate cake. Can't wait. You can do it in 5 minutes. Yes. Well, I was used to my granny. From scratch. Maybe a few hours, but it was good. And you take that bite, and your tongue was like, Jesus is Lord. I mean, it was awesome. And I get this thing, and it tastes like sugar styrofoam. See, once you've had the best, you'll leave the rest. Come on, Jesus is the best. God's the best. All that other is a counterfeit. Once you've had the best, it doesn't measure up. So I know we've already been through this, but here we go. You don't have to turn there, but remember in Luke chapter 2, verse 52 said that when they found Jesus, he was at the temple, he said, why were you looking for him? You knew how to be about my Father's business. And it said that Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and what? Favor with God and man. So what is that? And his spirit never died. He was always alive to God. So when you got born again, your spirit's alive to God. Now you didn't get the 8-pound, 6-ounce Jesus. You got the full-blown resurrected, all authority. Because I'm going to start getting into authority. And when I get into authority, some people, their head spins because it's like, what have I been given that I didn't know I had? We're not getting there today, but we'll get there. So using this authority is huge. Well, knowing that, wait just a minute. I came in the same way that he came. I'm 100% man in my body, but I'm 100% God in my spirit. So when we talk about growing up spiritually, it's not that your spirit grows, it's that you learn how to live out of your spirit, not your mind or not your flesh. Not your soul or your flesh. We've been through this forever. You are a spirit, you live in a body, you possess a soul. Well, we've got to get something going so that it gets our spirit man dominion. And you're the only one that can shut it down. The word says the spirit of the prophet, that would be you, is subject to the prophet. Well, that went over big.
That's so good.
Well, God help me. No, God will help you when you do something. Oh, come on, now I'll make you stand up.
That's so good.
You have to move to get led. You can't sit on your blessed assurance and say, where are we going, Lord? You got to start moving. You're going, oh, go this way, or go this way, or go this way. Now you're being led. Now you're flowing. There's no flow on your couch.
There you go. Come on.
Well, I just didn't feel led. No, you didn't feel led because you're lazy in your flesh. And it's uncomfortable sometimes to step out. He's always there. 100% of the time. Never leave you or forsake you. 3 of you. God bless the rest of you. Here we go. Go ahead and turn with me to Philippians. So how Jesus grew in stature, wisdom and stature and favor with God and man. Philippians chapter 2. Oh, it's going to get chicky here in a little bit. Philippians chapter 2. Verse, where do I want to start? Yeah, we'll just start in 13. For it is God who works in you, both to will and to do for his good pleasure. Now, I know we went through this last. Barclay translation says, God put in you. the desire and the power to achieve what his purpose has planned for you. Remember over in Ephesians chapter 1, it says that he created you before the foundation of the earth. He thought about you. And it goes through all the in him stuff, all the way through the whole first chapter. It talked about how he thought about you and he made you and he put you on this planet right now at this time. So we know that, well, you're a gift, but he also put a desire in you. Well, if you don't know what that desire is, it's because you're listening to your head and your flesh. And what I find is everybody that's a gift, everybody's a gift from God. Even people that aren't born again have that gift on them. So they'll flow in different capacities. But if you're a teacher, you're a teacher. It doesn't matter what you do. You just teach stuff. For instance, I'll tell them myself. You ever did any, and if you're into this, don't take it wrong. I wasn't good at it. Okay? So, because I always got to preface this because somebody will be like, well, I made $1 million doing that. Fantastic. I made 0 and I went the other direction. So they had a network marketing deal one time. And I was selling water filters and air filters. Don't laugh that hard, but I'm not allowed anymore. Because it sounded good and it was that. I found out real quick, you know what I'm not? A salesman. I couldn't sell ice at the equator. I'm not good at it. I just can't do it. I mean, it's just, I'm not gifted that way. There's people that can, they can sell Eskimos ice cubes or whatever. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do it. So we wound up with a whole garage full of opportunity and a yacht. Never happened. Anyway. But God put something in you. You're a gift. And he put that desire in you. And so there's a desire in you. There's a gift in you that's from God. And a lot of times your flesh doesn't like it. And I won't go back because we talked about it last week. But when you step into that, it'll be the greatest thing that ever happened to you. Don't argue with that. Go with it. Because it'll bless you. It'll bless you. It'll show up in everything that you do. And I mean, I won't go there. God, I want to, but I won't. You guys still here? Yeah, let's go ahead. Here we go. Hebrews 13, just because we did it last time. A little bit of review, you know how I am. Hebrews 13. Because you got to see this to get it. Hebrews 13, verse 20. Now may the God of peace. Man, I like it when it says God of peace. Now that means wholeness. Nothing broken, nothing missing. That doesn't mean you're on a lake somewhere with a little sailboat. It's an easy breeze and you're just taking along and somebody's fanning you and you got these people feeding you grapes. That's not the peace he's talking about. He's talking about an inward peace that nothing's broken. I mean, you can have all kinds of situations going on. I'm at peace, man. Why? Because I know him. We'll get to that in a second. Now may the God of peace who brought up our Lord Jesus from the dead, that great shepherd of the sheep, through the blood of the everlasting covenant, thank God his blood, thank God we got a covenant, make you complete. Make you complete. That word means perfect or mature in every good work to do his will. Wow. Sounds just like Philippians, doesn't it? Yeah. He put in you both the desire and the thing. He put it in you. He gave you the energy for it. He gave you the power for it. But he also gave you the desire for it. You know, I found out when I do what I do for a living, I love. I love this. I love teaching God. I love it. So I have never, not one time have I ever gone, God, I got to do that again. Why? Because there's a desire in me to do it. Now, sometimes I will admit, if it's really cold, I'm like, maybe we ought to cancel that one. If it's hot, I don't care, but man, that cold, ugh. Anyway, but I've never thought, man, I don't want to do this, or I love it. Well, there's a desire in there, and then there's a power for it. Come on, you find out what God's called you to, it's easy. It's not something, sometimes it's hard on your flesh, but it's not that hard. You guys still here? God work in you to do his will, working in you what is well-pleasing in his sight, through Jesus Christ, whom be glory forever and ever. Amen. It doesn't say he's going to work in you. He says he is at work in you. He's working. It's not gonna. He is. So if he is, and he always is, then how do we get to where we find out what that is? I'm glad you asked. Go ahead and turn with me. Well, you don't have to turn there. We'll just quote it. Romans chapter 12, verse 2, right? It says, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed at the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is a good and perfect, acceptable will of God. Don't be conformed. Don't be conformed. Don't be conformed. We've got all kinds of things in God, and we've conformed to the world. Thank you, Art. I said, we've got all these things in God, but we've conformed to the world. Oh, we would never do that. Really? How come we're not walking in full authority? Because we've conformed to the world. Why aren't we walking the same way Jesus walked when he was on the earth? Because we've conformed to the world. We're in the world, we're not of the world. Now, I'll get into something this morning because that doesn't mean nothing shows up. Because a lot of times you think, well, if I've got all authority, nothing can touch me. Yeah, it can. You live in this world, it's going to touch your body. That went over big. Barclay translation says, your whole mental outlook must be radically altered. Why? I got to think like God. Come on. Ephesians chapter 4, you don't have to turn there. It says, be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Jared's translation says, your mind must be renewed by a spiritual what? Revolution. The word revolution means overthrow. You got to have a spiritual overthrow of what's going on in here. How you've already, well, my mama did it this way, my grandma did it this way, I do it. This is my family tree. I do not believe in generational curses. They don't exist. Jesus became a curse for me. I do believe in generational thinking, generational stupidity. Well, they thought like this, that's why we think like this. Well, they were stupid. You want to stay stupid? Come on, man. Get on the God side. Get on the good side. Get on the smart side. You guys awake? So my whole job then is to what? Function out of him. Prove what is a good and acceptable and perfect will. Don't be conformed. Have a radical change of thinking. Because the world won't see it the way God sees it. It makes no sense to give stuff away and stuff come to you. Playing golf one day. And this one guy I play with who I love. Nobody likes playing with him. I love playing with him. Well, not nobody. I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people do. Anyway, he's never bought a golf ball. And it bugs me. I'm like, you never bought a ball? He finds balls like crazy. So one day I said, what if I gave you 2 dozen golf balls? Oh, no, I'll just lose them. Like, you can't lose anything. You find everything. I said, man, you find so much stuff, you ought to start giving it. Well, it's like a golf ball is $1 million. Oh, I couldn't do that. Well, we play with this other guy, and he finally goes, this is your brand, isn't it? He threw him 3 or 4. I couldn't believe it. I was like, he's getting it. And he winds up, his name, I call him Doc. He's not really a doctor, he's a dentist, but that's what I tell him. I'm teasing, that's what I tell him. He's a friend of mine. And and all day long, he's finding stuff after that. I said, I told you if you start giving stuff away, you get more. Well, these are all the ones I play. I said, yeah, they're just coming to you now. Keep giving the other stuff away and watch what happens. He can't give enough golf balls away. He went from stingy with the golf balls to what's your point? Stuff works, but this stuff works. But God's way always works, even with a golf ball. Come on, man. You got to have your brain. You got to have your soul radically altered. You have to have a spiritual overthrow. Hebrews. You guys doing all right so far? Here we go. Hebrews chapter 5. We've read this a bunch, but I want to get to one part of it that we haven't gone through really. Verse 12. So we know we're a gift, right? You know you're a gift from heaven. You know that he puts his desire and power in you. Remember what the word says, that he is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ask or think, according to what? The power that works in us. Well, here's the deal. That is 100% true. It's in the word. But he also gave you, he also, just off of what we just read, he also gives you the desire for that. Come on. There's a desire, not just a desire, well, I need to be healed, blah, blah, blah. I need this. Not just that. Come on, he gave you a desire to live. He gave you a desire to show off heaven. He gave you a desire to bring glory and honor to him. And it's all the way he made you. So it's not hard. Religion's told us this is really rough. It's not rough, it's easy. You guys still here? For though by this time you ought to be teachers, in other words, you ought to be revelators. You ought to be sharing this revelation that you have, this relationship that you have. But because you don't do this, you're not staying in that place. You ought to be so much into the gifting that he's given you and the desire he put on the inside of you and the power that he's given you that you're giving revelation to people. And if necessary, open your mouth. There ought to be a life coming out of you that goes, well, why are you the same every day? Man, I got God. Why are you not ever anxious about stuff? Because I got heaven. Why are you not worried? I got heaven. Why are you not concerned? I know the answers. I know the one that did everything. He is the answer. For though by this time you ought to be teachers or revelators, you need someone to teach you, give you revelation to you. Again, the first principles are the speeches of God. And you have come to need milk and not solid food. In other words, you ought to be grown up by now. Verse 13. For everyone who partakes only of milk is unskilled in the word of what? For he's a babe. How much do we talk about you're right with God? How much do I tell you you're right with God? You're in him. Quit looking at your flesh. Look at what he's made you. Don't look at where you missed it. Look at where you made it. Right? That's the basic thing. If you're not skilled in that word, that's why we spend so much time, whether we call it righteousness or not. You are who you are because of what he did. And it's not your flesh. He's called you to something great. And you know what? He'll prepare you ahead of time. In other words, he'll tell you act a certain way. I've told you this before, but for forever and ever and ever, I mean, I kept getting this. I think it was Montana didn't have a speed limit. And I was like, and the Lord kept saying, don't you want to go to Montana? You can drive as fast as you want. Like, yeah, I'm getting a fast car and I'm going to Montana. And I got fired one day and I lost 2/3 of my income in about, what was it, a month? I don't know, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. But as soon as I got fired, I'll never forget, on the inside, the Lord said, welcome to Montana. In other words, why? He was preparing me ahead of time. What would it be like to go as fast as you want to go? Oh, that'd be awesome. And then as soon as he said that, when I got fired and that guy did that triggered in me and he said that, I knew exactly what he meant. I am not limited what they can tell me I can say. Come on, I'm not limited in how I can minister God. I mean, I was working somewhere. They'd say, no. All the money got to come here. You can't say give it wherever you. No, I don't do that. I'm not limited anymore. I got him. I always had him, but now I'm going to put you in a place you can say whatever you want from him. Not whatever you want, but because how many times I get up here and go, I can't. I want to, though. Verse 14 is where I wanted to get to. But solid food belongs to those who are of full age, those who are perfect, those who are mature. That by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Listen to this. I love this one. Stephen's translation, verse 14. But the deeper mysteries of our faith are appreciated only by the mature Christian who I trained in discriminating between what is useful and what is worthless. Come on, man. You didn't get that. I'm going to read it again. 3 of you went, ooh. The rest of you need to get a ooh. But the deeper mysteries, Christ in you, right? The mystery, the Christ in you, the hope, the very picture of his glory, the deeper mysteries of our faith are appreciated only by the mature Christian who I trained in discriminating between what is useful and what is worthless. Man, the world's full of all kinds of worthless information. And I'm really good at retaining the worthless. Just them, always have been. Was never good. I mean, school. I may have close to a photographic memory for stuff that doesn't matter. But not for anything that matters. In other words, what I mean by that, I could read something in school and be like, I'll never forget, they give you this little test. I was in first grade. I don't know how old was I, 5 or 6? So for 6, okay, I'm 6 years old in the first grade. Me, maybe 7, I don't know, Starla. And they sit you down and they give you this test individually. I'll never forget, so that's 54 years, 55 years ago. Still in my brain. They asked me where you buy sugar. I thought it had to be a trick question. Where would you buy sugar? Sugar store? That's the answer I gave. And it still bugs me. I was like, God, it's a store. It's a grocery store. Where my granny old time decides. I know where they got. They got big deals of C&A's pure cane sugar. I saw her go. Told you this before, I'm working at this church, I'm in the front row, and these keys go flying by me. Pow! They hit the stage, and I turn back. There's this lady just windmilling this usher. I turned around like I didn't see it. I get a tap on the shoulder, Pastor. Oh, God. Okay. So we get her back there, and she's off her meds, and she's not right. And she's starting an old commercial, and I still remember it, toothpaste commercial. If you remember, the guy was brushing his teeth, and he's yawning in the mirror, and he goes, oh, Ralph, you haven't thought about your toothpaste since you was a kid. She goes, oh, Ralph. I said, you hadn't thought about your toothpaste since she was a kid. Yeah. She would start a song, I would finish it. Movie line, I'd finish it. Finally, she stopped and looked at me and she said, you're one of us. Yes, I am. So how do I discern what is useful and what is worthless? Well, first, it starts at the very beginning. If I don't know that I'm right with God, that I think that I have to all the time repent, and that I all the time have to, please forgive me. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, please hear my prayers. I am now still a baby. I haven't got to the place where because that's what? That's worthless. He's already done it. I've already become that. Oh, God, anoint me. God, anoint me. I better fast something. No, it's worthless. Why? Because he's already made you that. Oh, I just wish I could hear from you. You do hear from God. You've got to have your mind renewed so that you let your spirit man come out. You have to have a drastic overthrow of government in your brain.
There you go.
Because if you don't, you start thinking like the world and you get offended at everything. And the Word says if you're in love with God, you're not easily offended. It rolls off of you. You must not know me. I was doing this deal one time. We started this dog thing, and there was a dog kennel right next to this guy's house, and he was hot. He came over one day and chewed me out. I said, it's not up to me. You'd have to talk to these two guys. And I mean, he's red in the face. I wasn't offended at all. And I said, Doug, if you would have met me under different circumstances, you might have liked me. That was his name. Sorry. Not Doug here. And he looked at me and said, I doubt that. Wasn't offended at all. See, when you know God, it's hard to get offended. When you're in love with Jesus, it's hard for people to offend you. If you don't know him, you're offended at everything. See, that guy looked at me? I wonder what they were saying about me. Nobody likes me. Well, Jesus likes you. He doesn't just love you. He likes you. He enjoys you. Come on, man. All right, you've got to get to the place where you have a radical overthrow. So that now you start to think like God, and guess what he'll show you? That's worthless. Don't do it. God hasn't given us a spirit of fear. He hasn't given us a spirit of bondage. Yet religion puts bondage on you all the time. This isn't a license to sin. This is a license to live out of the life of God. This is a license. When I tell you something and you don't receive it, I don't care. I care for you. And if you don't receive it, okay. The Bible says, shake the dust off your feet and move on. We go around, I did the Lord's work. And blah, blah, blah. Come on, man. So we've got this authority. That doesn't mean that things don't show up. The Bible says perfect love casts out all fear. That doesn't mean that fear didn't show up. I don't have time to get into it next week, I guess. Things are going to show up in your life. But man, we got the greater one. When you've had a drastic overthrow of how you look at things, and it shows up, you're pumped. I told you this before. This was years and years and years ago. We used to have altar benches up here. We prayed on Tuesday nights instead of Wednesday night. I was laying under one right over here. And I just, when I say it, you saw it in your mind's eye. And I love every Christian. If you're a Christian today, I haven't given an altar call yet. And if you're not, you can become one later. After that, every Christian ought to watch Tombstone. It's a Western. And you ought to get the boldness of Wyatt Earp. That's the way we ought to operate in the world. He walks into there and that guy's dealing cards and he's yelling and screaming at everybody. He walks over and just looks at him. And then winds up slapping him. And it's awesome. They get pinned down on a river and he gets up and says, no! And just they're shooting at him. They don't shoot him. He starts killing all of them. Man, there's some boldness. That's the way we need to be. Well, my point is, when it shows up, I take an action. And I know that I'm bulletproof. Doesn't mean that I don't feel bad. Doesn't mean that I don't have symptoms. Doesn't mean that it didn't, knock me in the dirt. It doesn't mean that. My flesh is that, but I don't accept it. Uh-oh. Yeah, I'll say it. See, you've got to, just like David said, I fought the lion and the bear. Who's this uncircumcised Philistine comes against our God? If every time you get an ailment or a symptom and you're taking something for it, it's worthless. I got a headache. I think I'll take something and lay down for a while. Why don't you use the authority you have? Well, yeah, but it could be gone in 10 minutes. Yeah, you could learn how to use this life of God that's on the inside of you, and it might have taken you 3 days, but guess what? Next time it shows up, it might take you just half that. And guess what? The next time that shows up, it might not take you that much. And then eventually when it shows up, you go, are you kidding me? Are we doing this again? See, you have to learn to use what you have. You have to learn what's worthless and useful. Well, the only thing we have useful is Him. And how we operate. I'm not against doctors and all that. Well, he said not. No, I'm telling you, though, that if it's something that ain't going to kill you, it's just going to make you feel bad for a while, why don't you double up and see what you got? Come on, man. Why don't you put the reins in your mouth like John Wayne and let's go to work? It's a bold statement for a one-eyed fat man. I love that stuff. Why don't we start using what we got? Why don't you start with wherever it is? Well, if I'm walking in this authority, it shouldn't touch you. It's going to touch you. It's going to touch your flesh. Can't stay there. Man, I've lost track of the people that prayed for and good things happened, and then the symptoms showed up, and guess what they did? They folded like a lawn chair. Well, that's because that's what we're taught. Oh, it came back. Ain't coming back to me. Come on, man. I won't go there. I don't have time. Close your eyes, bow your heads. Nobody looking around. Or I'll get you. No, I'm teasing. If you're here this morning, never giving your life to Jesus, I want to give the opportunity.